Can you go back to your parents' home? My parents are going to live in this house. What are you talking about? I don't understand. I truly didn't understand what my husband meant. Even though I contribute $2,000 for monthly living expenses, what will he do without me? However, this turned out to be a good thing for me. The next day, I quickly contacted a recycling company. If my husband was plotting something, I had my ways too. What do you think you're doing? Huh? It's none of your business how I dispose of my own belongings, right? I am Liana, a 32-year-old office worker. I married Danny, my husband, quite recently. We met at a group dating event. He approached me aggressively, and I gradually became attracted to him, which led to us dating. Our relationship went smoothly for about 2 years, and then he proposed to me. As I was in my early 30s and hoping to marry, I was very happy when he proposed. I immediately said yes, and we decided to get married. Then we quickly planned to greet each other's parents. When I introduced him to my parents, they were relieved to see he was a decent office worker. Please take good care of our daughter. Yes, I will definitely make her happy. I was happy when he said that confidently. He was fun and considerate, so I thought our married life would be enjoyable. After that, we went to greet his parents. I don't want to remember much about that day. Right from the introduction, his parents didn't seem impressed. Nice to meet you. I'm Liana. Danny, welcome back. It must have been tough walking in the heat, right? I have some cold drinks prepared. Sit down and drink. Oh, I didn't realize you brought a friend, haha. Mom, I brought Liana, my fiancé, today. Oh, sorry, haha. You're so lucky to marry Danny. His mother suddenly said that. Ignoring my greeting at our first meeting, I wondered if she was making fun of me. Then we were led to the living room, and I greeted his father, but he didn't respond at all, just talking to Danny. Without mentioning our marriage, they talked about family matters only they understood for over an hour, leaving me out of the conversation. So, I ended up leaving without having much conversation with his parents. Since his parents were so cold, I asked Danny if he had told them about our intention to get married. I did, he said, but their attitude was too unfriendly. I felt really uncomfortable. That's why I didn't want a meeting between both of our families. Feeling very anxious, I eventually arranged one. I had already warned my parents about his parents. Thanks to that, my parents managed the conversation well. His parents were still unfriendly, but my parents asked questions that drew them out, praising their answers, which seemed to put them in a better mood, and they became more talkative. As a result, the first meeting over a meal ended pleasantly, and I felt relieved. I was truly grateful to my parents for trying so hard for their daughter. Later on, we had our wedding without any issues and finished our honeymoon, starting our life together. We submitted our marriage registration, and we officially became husband and wife. Then, our married life began. Even the trivial things in married life felt enjoyable. Since we hadn't lived together before marriage, everything was fresh. I felt enveloped in happiness every day. I'm home. Welcome back. I made dinner. Oh, what's on the menu today? It's your favorite, Danny. It's steak. Steak. Awesome. I'll get changed and come right away. We enjoyed our married life every day. Although both of us were working, Danny sometimes cooks simple meals, which I appreciated. I had often heard that wives usually bear the brunt of household chores after marriage, but thankfully, that wasn't the case for me. I felt really glad to have married him. That was how we were living a happy married life. However, about a year after marriage, Danny's attitude changed drastically and became cold. At first, I didn't notice, but our conversations began to dwindle. Today, something happened at work. Are you listening to me? I guess so. What kind of response is that? Indeed, Danny completely ignored my stories, and our conversations gradually faded. During meals, he hardly spoke, and the silence grew. Then, perhaps frustrated with this situation, Danny started working overtime more often and returned home considerably late. He also began to go out for drinks more often, coming home drunk. I couldn't understand why our relationship had suddenly deteriorated. Had I done something to upset Danny? Or had his feelings for me cooled off just after a year? Thus, my days were filled with anxiety and confusion. Danny was coming home late, and we hardly had any proper conversations. I wondered if our relationship would continue to deteriorate and lead to divorce. Amidst these thoughts, one day, he suddenly said to me, "Hey, how about we go out to eat somewhere today?" Eh? What happened all of a sudden? No, I was just thinking we haven't really had a good talk recently. Work has been busy, and I've been feeling down. Sorry for being cold. Danny apologized like that. It's okay. Well, I was quite worried, but I forgive you since you apologized. Thank you. I'll be more careful from now on. I was happy that Danny apologized. If things had remained in a bad state, we might have ended up divorcing. That day, we went to a restaurant and enjoyed delicious food and drinks. We had a great time talking about various things, just like before we were married. I thought we might be able to enjoy a happy married life like before. After that, Danny started valuing our time together, and it felt like we went back to our old days. He came home early, and our conversations during meals were enjoyable. So, I was completely reassured. In the midst of those days, Danny made a suggestion. There's a new apartment building coming up that seems convenient for commuting and has a lovely interior. How about moving there? He said that and showed me the brochure for the property. Indeed, it was a very nice place, as Danny described. At that time, we lived in the apartment I used to live in alone. The commute from the apartment was all right, and it was spacious enough for two. Our home appliances were relatively new, so we decided to start our married life in this apartment. However, now that it's been about a year and a half since we got married, it might be time to consider moving, especially if we plan to have a family in the future. The rent for the apartment Danny suggested is $1,400 per month. It's quite expensive, but if we each contribute $700 and save on groceries, we should be able to afford it. I agreed with Danny's proposal and hurried the contract procedures. A few months later, we moved into the completed apartment. It was spacious with many rooms, beautiful, and seemed very comfortable to live in. Danny really liked it and seemed satisfied. It was an extremely comfortable and pleasant place. Equipped with a complete kitchen, I could enjoy cooking every day. Danny and I were spending joyful time together in our new home. However, about a month later, something bothered me. "Hey Danny, about this month's rent, your part hasn't been deposited into our joint account, right?" Really? Oh, I thought I had transferred it. There's a deadline for payment, so please transfer it soon. Sorry, I thought I had already transferred it and ended up spending on other things. Can you cover this month for me? I'll pay it back soon, sorry. Please make it quick. I paid the full rent from my salary then. It was the first time I saw Danny not keeping such a promise, so I thought he would pay me back soon. However, after 2, then 3 weeks passed. Danny still hadn't paid me back, and it was already time for the next rent payment. "Hey, you haven't paid me back for last month's rent yet. Do I have to pay the full $1,400 this month?" That's unreasonable. But we agreed to split the rent each month. Well, we made a promise, but it's not easy, right? No, it's a promise, so don't make excuses and just keep it. I'm working hard every day, so don't be so harsh. Working hard? If he was working hard, he should cooperate in paying the rent for us as a couple. Then, can you set aside the rent from your salary in advance? All right. I wonder if he really understood. My trust in Danny dropped significantly. Besides, I was paying for all living expenses, including food and utilities. I was saving as much as possible. So even with rent, the total came to about $2,000, but it's hard to pay all that with just my salary. However, Danny never paid the rent again. It turned out he only paid for the first month after we moved. One day, something unforgivable happened. It was on my holiday when Danny was out for work, and I was cleaning the house. As I was vacuuming around the house, I found something in Danny's room. Did he have luxury brand clothes? Danny had bought luxury brand clothes without my knowledge, clothes he had never worn in front of me. So, I didn't even know he had bought them. But what upset me the most was that he bought such expensive items while not paying the rent or living expenses. As soon as Danny came home, I confronted him. Hey, what is this? It's my clothes. What's the problem? Why are you buying luxury brand clothes? Why not? I can buy whatever I want with my salary. Yes, you can. But you said we would share expenses like rent and groceries, and you haven't paid. When will you pay? I'll pay when I can. Isn't your priority wrong? If you can afford luxury clothes, then pay the rent. Danny retorted to my words. What's the problem? It's fine, isn't it? To me, these clothes are more important. Your salary is also part of our income, so you paying the entire rent is the same as us paying it together. I was amazed at how self-centered his statement was. It's not the same. I'm making an effort to save while you just buy whatever you want. Don't you care about our home? Danny and I had a big fight for the first time in a while. He stormed out of the house in rage. Maybe we both needed some time to cool down. After Danny left, I searched his room again. I found a receipt for a luxury brand bag for women in his desk drawer. The date was over a month ago. I had no memory of being given such a bag, and my birthday had passed 2 months before. At that time, we only enjoyed a meal at a slightly upscale restaurant. Moreover, I paid for it. I haven't received anything from Danny. I finally understood. Danny was probably giving gifts to another woman. That's why he didn't pay the rent and didn't contribute to living expenses. So, I hired a detective agency. About 3 days later, Danny returned home as if nothing had happened. However, I couldn't greet him as I used to. I didn't say welcome back or talk to him. Danny, sensing my anger, didn't try to start a conversation either. In my mind, I was thinking of ending our marriage depending on the results from the detective agency. About 2 weeks later, I received the results from the agency. As expected, Danny was having an affair. Moreover, the other woman was his former girlfriend. Before marriage, he mentioned having a long-term relationship with a woman, and it seemed she was the one he was having an affair with. The affair matched the period last year when Danny became cold toward me. He had been cheating since then. I was filled with rage. The sudden kindness from Danny, who had been cold, was probably to make me bear all household expenses, allowing him to freely spend his salary, pretending our marriage was good. I was skillfully used by him. This was something I couldn't forgive. I decided to take revenge on him. In the midst of this, Danny came home from work and made an unbelievable proposal. My parents are going to live in this house, so can you go back to your parents' home? What are you talking about? I don't understand. After our fight, I went back to my parents' house, and they told me to break up with such a woman. They said they were moving to this apartment and suggested we live together. So, I've decided to live here with my parents and you need to move out. I couldn't believe what Danny was saying. Even though I contribute $2,000 for monthly living expenses, what will he do without me? However, this turned out to be a good thing for me. Understood? Perhaps our relationship can't be repaired. If that's the case, I'll leave. When I said that, Danny laughed happily and said, I'll come back after you leave, and left. The next day, I quickly contacted a recycling company. Since he was plotting something, I had my ways too. A few days later, I had the recycling company assess all the furniture and appliances and sold everything. It turned out to be an unexpected windfall of hundreds of dollars. Then, I packed my belongings and went back to my parents' house. Danny had prepared a divorce form, so I signed it and submitted it to the city office promptly. This meant Danny and I would then lead completely separate lives. When I told Danny the moving out was done, he said cheerfully, "Oh, that was fast. Let's both be happy," and hung up. However, a few days later, Danny called me again. "Hey, what do you mean by this? We're already divorced. Do you need something? Where did all the furniture and appliances go? You can't just take them." It's my right to do whatever I want with my belongings, isn't it? All the furniture and appliances in the house are what I've been using since my single days. I've already had them taken away by the recycling company. So, I have to buy new ones then. Eh? Do you have that kind of money? You're kidding me. I work too, you know? Well, but that apartment costs $1,400 per month in rent, right? Plus, living expenses for 3 adults will be around $2,200 to $2,300 a month. It costs that much. Yes, I've been paying about that much all along. That, I can afford that with my salary. Maybe. Well, no more money for your girlfriend then. What? I know everything about your affair with your ex-girlfriend. I'll be claiming compensation for that, so be prepared. I'll contact you through a lawyer. Bye. Wait a minute. I hung up without listening to him. Afterward, through a lawyer, I proceeded with the process of claiming compensation from Danny and his affair partner. Danny was ordered to pay a compensation of $30,000, but ended up in debt as he had no savings. As expected, he soon found it difficult to pay the living expenses and rent, and it seemed he had to leave the apartment. His parents' house had already been sold, so they had no place to return to and are now living in a small, cheap apartment as a family of 3. When I was contributing financially, there was a sense of economic ease. But after the divorce, Danny was left with nothing, and his relationship with his affair partner couldn't be maintained. As a result, it seems our relationship naturally came to an end. Danny begged me for reconciliation, crying, but I ignored everything and even blocked his calls. The compensation is to be paid in installments, and if the payments are delayed, his salary might be garnished, so it's unlikely he will miss any payments. Meanwhile, I plan to commute from my parents' house and start saving the money I couldn't save before. The marriage was a failure, but I take it as a lesson and intend to use this experience in my future life. Hey, where are you now? I'm at the office, working. His response was surprisingly calm, which caught me off guard. He's right next to me now. I can't believe he fooled me so easily. If he's going to play it that way, I'll have to come up with a plan. I'll use whatever means necessary to make him realize. My name is Jane. I'm 33 years old this year. I graduated from college and joined a major foreign company I had dreamed of for a long time. I had no complaints about my income, but my days were busy, and I often had to travel abroad. I feared that if this lifestyle continued, every day would be consumed by work. When I turned 29, I began to feel a sense of urgency and anxiety about the future, wanting a break from my daily routine. At that time, a friend suddenly invited me to a group date, and I thought it would be a perfect distraction. There, I met Kyle, who would later become my husband. He was the same age as me, 29, and at first glance seemed like an ordinary office worker living his daily life. While I had business trips and relocations, Kyle had no such duties, and his salary was indeed lower than mine. One day, as our relationship approached its first year and we began to seriously consider marriage, Kyle said to me with a slightly gloomy face, "Honestly, I'm worried if I can make you happy as things stand." "Why do you think that?" "When it comes to salary, I earn less than you, and I'm unsure if I can adequately support our family as a man." I took his hand and said, "I'm with you not because of your salary or status, but because I genuinely love you. That's all there is to it." A look of relief appeared on his anxious face. At that moment, I felt even more affection for him. I expressed the emotions swelling up inside me. "I need you, Kyle. It's you that I want, not anyone else." He looked surprised for a moment, then gently said, "Jane, thank you for saying that. I truly want to spend my life with you." A month later, he proposed to me. As autumn deepened, we got married in a chapel, surrounded by blessings from everyone. My life continued to be busy with work as before, but having him in my life made everything felt worth it. Fast forward 2 years from that special day. We spent our time peacefully and happily. Time flew, and thoughts about having children began to cross our minds. One evening after work, I returned home to find that Kyle, who usually waited for me, wasn't there. That's odd. Where's Kyle? I checked the living room, bedroom, and other rooms, but he was nowhere to be found. Returning to the entrance, I noticed his shoes were missing. I quickly checked my phone, but there were no messenger notifications or any particular calls. This was strange. Kyle usually got home before me. He would always let me know if something came up. I wondered, did something serious happen to him? Suppressing my anxiety, I picked up my phone to call him. After a few anxious seconds, I heard his nonchalant voice. Hey, what's up? Kyle, where are you? Are you okay? Huh? Oh, I'm fine. Did something happen? I came home and you weren't here. There were no messages, so I was worried something had happened. Oh, about that. Sorry, I'm actually working overtime today. Really? But you've hardly ever done that before, right? Feeling something was off, I pressed for more details. He hesitated briefly, then began to speak more quickly than usual. Well, I've been given a huge responsibility at work. If I do well, there might be talk of a promotion. So I'm working hard. Really? That's great news, Kyle. Thanks. But because of this, I might have to work overtime more frequently for a while. Sorry about that. I'm still working, so I'll talk to you later. Wait, you're hanging up already? He abruptly ended the call. I was initially irritated, but the news of a potential promotion truly made me happy. I hoped that this promotion might resolve the income concerns Kyle had been having at the back of his mind. While I wasn't particularly concerned about Kyle's income, I knew he was driven to succeed on his own terms. It looked certain that our future together would become even more enjoyable. Considering the prospect of having children, this promotion was indeed a blessing. From the day we had that conversation over the phone, it became truly rare for him to come home on time. On holidays, he would say, I need to go to work for a bit, and leave the house. The time we would spend together as a couple started to diminish day by day. When I came home from work, I hoped to see him relaxing in the living room, but the house was silent and he was nowhere to be found. Even on holidays, Kyle seemed busy, and we couldn't find time to relax together. I understood he was working hard and he mentioned there's a chance for a promotion, so I supported him. But to be honest, there were times I wanted to tell him, shouldn't we take some time for ourselves once in a while? But I couldn't, as I didn't want to pressure him. I immersed myself in my work to distract myself from the loneliness. I also had an opportunity to go on an overseas business trip at just the right time, so I dived into it wholeheartedly. However, our lives began to drift apart, and I started to feel, deep down, I wish we had more time together. Despite understanding the pressure he was under, I decided to share my feelings. Kyle, can you listen for a moment? When he came home, I approached him with a bit of nervousness. Now, I'm kind of tired. Oh, I see. His response wasn't what I expected, and I was unsure of how to react. But feeling that I needed to speak up, I tried again. Sorry, Kyle. I understand you're probably tired, but there's something I wanted to talk about today. All right. But can you be quick? I have to get up early tomorrow. But tomorrow is Saturday, right? Why do you have to be up early? Do you really need to talk about this now? The tone of his voice rose, and I was taken aback, just because I could see his face turning red with anger. It was the first time I saw him like this, and I was scared. Forget it. I'm going to bed, he said and went straight to the bedroom. I stood there, not knowing what to do. Kyle's reaction was truly shocking. He had never been so cold to me before. I always believed that even in busy times, we could communicate properly as a couple. I never imagined being yelled at for something so minor. Usually, we would discuss things calmly and solve them. But this time, he was different. To be honest, I was scared to confront him with my emotions. Soon after, I had an overseas business trip, and my fatigue from work was at its peak. On top of that, my train home was delayed. I was thinking about the bad timing, but I wanted to get home quickly. Maybe Kyle is already back home, I thought, so I hailed a taxi. Excuse me, please take me to this address. While in the taxi, I was too tired to check my phone. I was staring out of the window when, "Wait, stop here," I exclaimed. I squinted and looked again. There was no mistake. Walking there were Kyle and a woman I didn't recognize. That's Kyle, right? He said he was busy with work, right? So why is he here and with that woman? Questions swirled in my mind. Everything about our daily life, our married life, and his actions felt suspicious all of a sudden. It wasn't just a case of mistaken identity or someone looking similar. The way he walked, his posture, and that distinctive jacket, it was unmistakably Kyle. What shocked me more was when they suddenly started kissing as if they weren't concerned about anyone watching. In my shock, I managed to take out my phone and record the scene, thinking it might serve as evidence. They continued walking, hands clasped, looking cheerful. I just stared blankly at their retreating figures. As I recorded, the taxi driver asked, "Are you okay?" Hearing his voice, I snapped back to reality and quickly stopped the recording. When I got home, as expected, there were no signs of Kyle. Amidst the turmoil of emotions, I decided to call him. After several rings, I finally heard his voice. "What is it? You're calling so much. I'm at work right now. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify something. I'm a bit busy right now." "What? Busy? Do you mean you're busy with another woman?" I mustered the courage to confront him. "What are you talking about?" He responded in a surprised yet stern tone. After a moment of silence, he spoke in an annoyed voice. "I can't believe you're doubting me. I'm staying at the office tonight." And with that, he suddenly hung up the phone. Kyle's behavior couldn't be described as anything but suspicious. Could he really be cheating? The mere thought felt surreal. Considering our future as a couple, it had become evident that we needed a deep conversation to truly understand each other's feelings. But given his recent behavior, finding the right moment seemed difficult. True to his words, he didn't come back home that night. The next day, he came home but didn't speak much, as if he was a different person. Amidst this, the 2-week overseas business trip I had scheduled arrived. On the morning of departure, while pondering what to say to Kyle, he surprisingly woke up early and started a somewhat awkward conversation. "Jane, it's going to be tough with your trip starting today, but do your best." Thanks, Kyle. Let's both be careful. Thinking about you being gone for 2 weeks makes me lonely. I've gotten used to the occasional trips, but they still make me sentimental. You really think that way? I'm a bit surprised. Of course, I've felt a strange tension between us lately. When you come back, let's go on a fun date and change our mood. Did he truly feel this way? Or were these words a mask to hide a secret I didn't know? He might be trying to divert my suspicions. Even though my head understood this possibility, a part of my heart was relieved by his words. Our relationship had cooled off recently, and my passion for him seemed to have diminished. Yet deep down, maybe I wasn't ready to let him go. Was that scene I witnessed just a figment of my imagination? Seeing his smile again made all the doubts vanish, and I realized how much I still loved him. Let's try to truly understand each other when I get back. With a cheerful response, I proceeded with my departure preparations. Surprisingly, the business trip went smoothly and ended earlier than planned. Initially, I thought of informing him about my early return. However, an idea struck me: a surprise return could be fun. I imagined greeting a tired Kyle with a homemade dinner. I was looking forward to the small pleasure of welcoming him back, tired from his day, with the dinner I had prepared. Upon landing in the US, it felt like I had been away for longer than just a week. Standing in front of my house, I whispered to myself, "I'm finally back." But as I opened the door, something felt out of place. There, right in front of me, were unfamiliar pink high heels. Frozen in surprise, I heard Kyle's voice, along with a woman's giggly voice from the living room. "What?" Holding back my anxiety, I tiptoed down the corridor. Peeking into the living room, I saw that same woman I had seen before, laughing and sharing wine with Kyle. The woman, speaking in a playful tone, said, "Is it okay to stay here? What if someone finds out about us? It's fine. She won't be back for another 2 days. Haha. Really? Spending my birthday alone with you like this? I'm so lucky. I know, right? Haha. So, will you stay with me tonight? Oh, Kyle. Thank you for this present, too." The woman's name appeared to be Lisa. They seemed intoxicated, holding hands and laughing joyfully. My heart felt like it was tearing apart. How could this happen so easily in this house which I had worked so hard to obtain? Tears welled up, but I thought I shouldn't cry here and took a picture of the scene with my smartphone. While they seemed entirely relaxed, I quietly left the house and boarded the elevator. Inside the elevator, my heart raced. Torn between wanting to trust Kyle and the reality I had just witnessed, the memories of our good times together raced through my mind. I didn't want to believe it, but the reality before me couldn't be denied. Even in this situation, could I still maintain my relationship with him? Suppressing the tightening feeling in my chest, I decided to call him. When he answered the phone with a hello, I paused for a moment before speaking. "Hey, where are you right now?" He responded casually, "I told you, I'm at work. Is something wrong?" "Well, there's something that's bothering me. Is someone at our place right now?" He sounded puzzled as he murmured, "Huh?" I continued, slightly exasperated but wanting to address the situation. "I came back home early. As I approached the house, I heard voices inside. Wait. Seriously, you mean you're standing outside our door right now?" "Yes, so I was thinking if I should go in and check." As I tried to gauge his response, what he said next was completely unexpected, and I was shocked. "What? Could it be a burglar?" "That's it, a burglar. Jane, stay away for now. It's dangerous." I was utterly disappointed at that moment. I couldn't believe he would try to deceive me with such a flimsy excuse like this. First, go somewhere safe. Then the call abruptly ended. I impulsively called the police. "Excuse me, I believe there might be a burglar in my home. I can hear voices. Could you come quickly?" Shortly after, 2 police officers arrived at my home. I explained the situation and we entered the house together. When the house intercom rang and he appeared, he looked shocked. "Why are the police here? Was there some trouble? Are you a resident here?" "Yes, I am, but we received a report from the lady here saying someone had broken into the house." "What? A burglar? But there's nobody here." At that moment, I revealed myself from a corner, staring at his astonished face. "Why?" He looked completely bewildered. I apologized to the officers, saying, "Sorry, it was a misunderstanding," and sent them on their way. There was no sign of a woman inside the apartment. She probably slipped out while I was making the call. He looked slightly uneasy, seemingly trying to hide his infidelity. Kyle raised his voice. "Why did you suddenly call the police? Isn't that an overreaction?" "Well, you're the one who mentioned it might be a burglar, right? And where were you, really?" He looked troubled, clearly unsure of what to say. "Well, actually, I took out my smartphone and played the video I had recorded earlier. Do you see this?" His face went completely pale, and he seemed at a loss for words. "What is this? Can you explain?" I said with a slight smile. He seemed to be searching for words. I don't need excuses. Just tell me the truth." Although there was remorse in his eyes, he still couldn't muster the words to apologize to me. At this point, it doesn't matter. Even in a situation like this, you can't even apologize properly. How does it feel to be caught cheating? I'm sorry, Jane. What's the use of apologizing now? Just saying sorry won't fix everything, right? A mere apology won't heal this pain. Don't worry, I'll be sure to get compensation from you. Both you and that woman better take responsibility. With those words, my anger didn't subside and I threw him out of the house. After returning inside, I made sure to lock the door tightly. For a while, I could hear his voice and footsteps outside, but they eventually faded. Later on, I received a concerned call from his parents. Our son came home very distressed. What happened? When I calmly explained the situation, they were shocked and promised to cooperate regarding the compensation and divorce matters. They even prepared the divorce papers for me. The divorce went smoothly, and when I informed my in-laws, they told me they had decided to disown their son. I decided to claim damages from him and his affair partner and contacted my trusted lawyer. I learned that the woman he cheated with worked at the front desk of his company. And soon enough, the gossip spread throughout the office. Unable to handle the pressure, she ended up quitting her job. I heard that Kyle was still working there, facing cold stares and whispers almost daily. Surprisingly, I learned that the promotion he had been talking about all along was a lie. Thinking back, I might have been a bit too oblivious back then. But now, I feel like I'm on a new path. I plan to focus on my work and aim for a better future. There were many happy times in my marriage, but marriage isn't the only thing in life. I look forward to enjoying my future days, discovering a new me. How dare you live in luxury on my son's fortune, you mere daughter-in-law? Leave. You're a nuisance. Even seeing you is annoying. In the middle of an argument with my husband, my mother-in-law, changing her complexion, suddenly made these incomprehensible remarks. Mother-in-law, what happened? You think I don't know anything, but I have heard everything from Michael. I'm aware that you're squandering Michael's fortune and accumulating debts. He doesn't need a wife who just squanders money around. Leave right now. I had decided to endure my mother-in-law's harassment to continue my married life, but I was shocked by my husband's betrayal. There's no reason to support them anymore. They simply don't know gratitude. I understand. I'll leave. I thought it was pitiful, but decided to leave as they wished. My name is Catherine. I'm 29 years old and a remote worker. I've always been frail. My mother raised me single-handedly, and she's 65 this year. She's always been concerned about me. Even if you're not strong, there will come a time when you must earn a living. I can't always protect you, Catherine, so you need to learn the skills to survive. Yes, I understand. I'll do my best. I've lived supported by my mother for a long time, but after dropping out of high school, I've been self-learning and earning a living from remote work. Even on days I felt ill, working at my own pace was ideal for me. Initially, I only made about $300 a month, but gradually my income increased. I was seen as a shut-in at home after leaving high school, but I believe I'm on the path I chose. A few years after I started working, my income far exceeded the average for my age group, and I was no longer swayed by others' words. Your work seems to be going well. I'm so happy. Now I can feel at ease. When my job stabilized, my mother showed relief and joy, as if it was her own achievement. At that time, my mother, who had been working in a supermarket's deli section, was assigned a leadership role, and she was physically and mentally exhausted. Mom, how long do you plan to keep working? We can live on my income alone, so why not quit and live a relaxed life? Seeing my mother in pain every day, I couldn't keep silent. She never imagined that I, frail as I was, would become her support. Touched by my suggestion, my mother thanked me repeatedly, shedding tears. Eventually, my mother quit her supermarket job at the right time and began living a more relaxed life. She sometimes helped with my remote work, but she mostly enjoyed a peaceful retirement. She went on trips with friends, enjoyed luxury lunches, etc. Unlike her time at the supermarket, she regained her former energy and spent her days cheerfully. No matter how busy I was, I always had dinner with my mother and talked about the day's events. I had lunch with a friend today. Her daughter got married. She's excited to see her grandchild. Catherine, you're busy with work, so maybe there's no chance for a relationship right now, but I hope you'll find someone wonderful eventually. Hearing this, I responded with a slightly troubled expression. Marriage, huh? I've never seriously thought about it, but it's something to aspire to, isn't it? That was a conversation I had with my mother. To be honest, I never seriously considered marriage. I have often fallen ill since I was young. During elementary and middle school, I was in and out of the hospital, and I had to drop out of high school due to poor health. With such a background, I had no friends to call my own, let alone conversations with the opposite sex. However, as my mother said, maybe marriage and having children wouldn't be so bad if there was the right connection. I began to hope for that. There was a moment when I felt that this wish might come true. One day, I took the morning off for the first time in a while and went to the shopping mall alone. Then, a salesperson at the jewelry store approached me. "Are you looking for a gift? I'd be happy to help." "Yes, thank you. Actually, I'm thinking of a necklace for my mother's birthday. Do you have any recommendations?" This was my first encounter with Michael, who would later become my spouse. "A gift for your mother? That's wonderful. Shall I show you some recommendations? Do you have a budget in mind?" "I haven't set a specific budget. If I find something appropriate, I plan to buy it. Please show me your recommended jewelry." When I visited the jewelry store for my mother's birthday, I unexpectedly hit it off with Michael. We chatted while looking at products, and somehow ended up exchanging contact information. It was an unusual development for an employee and a customer, but we were naturally drawn to each other. Of course, I chose a very expensive item recommended by Michael for my mother's birthday. But what was more captivating was the exhilarating encounter with Michael. After that, we kept in touch amid our busy lives and occasionally went on dates. We quickly started a relationship, and things progressed smoothly until we eventually started discussing marriage. My mother seemed to sense that I had a new partner, and when I told her, "Mom, I'm thinking of marrying someone," she was delighted, not surprised. "I thought you've been looking more lively lately. So you've got a boyfriend. It's wonderful that you're thinking of marriage. I'd love to meet him." For me, nearing 30, the idea of marrying in my 20s was like a dream, something I hadn't even considered until recently. My mother seemed to feel the same. Later, when I introduced Michael to my mother, we learned that he too was raised in a single mother household. "I will definitely make Catherine happy. Please allow me to marry her." Receiving such a confident greeting, both my mother and I couldn't hide our smiles. For my mother, my marriage was unexpected, but she was happy that I had brought someone trustworthy. Our dating period wasn't very long, but it was about destiny and timing. My mother understood that well and was genuinely happy for our marriage. After that, I went to greet Michael's family. Little did I know that this would greatly change my life. Michael, like me, lived at his mother's house. When I arrived at Michael's house, located in a quiet residential area, his mother looked at me up and down and said, "I heard Michael wanted to get married, so I wondered what kind of person you'd be, but you're quite plain." I was expecting someone flashy and assertive, so it's a surprise. "Mom, that's a bit much. It's rude to say that to Catherine, whom you're meeting for the first time." My first impression of my mother-in-law was the worst. I couldn't understand what she was thinking, and her eyes, laughing creepily while looking at me, were extremely uncomfortable. It seemed like Michael was trying to stand up for me, but he also appeared to be careful not to upset his mother. "Nice to meet you. I'm Catherine. I've been dating Michael with the prospect of marriage in mind. Oh, I've already heard about that from Michael. Your name, age, job, and even the fact that you come from a single mother family. She interrupted me and looked at me with sarcasm. An unpleasant person. That description fit her perfectly. Then she said this: I have no objections to the marriage, but Michael and I plan to live together. Also, we're considering buying a new apartment. Once you both get married, let's live there, all three of us. If you can't accept this, then maybe marriage is out of the question. I hadn't heard about this. It seemed Michael and his mother had planned this all along, choosing a residence for the three of us to live in after marriage. They handed me a brochure for the apartment they planned to buy. It was a very luxurious 4-room high-rise condo. This is an incredibly luxurious condo. So the three of us will live here in this high-rise condo. Yeah, didn't I mention it? I can't be separated from Mom even after marriage. I worry about her. So if you decide to marry me, living with my mom is unavoidable. You understand, right? I felt uneasy seeing Michael's expression at that time, but my mind was in turmoil, and I couldn't think straight. Afterwards, Michael was as kind as ever to me. I found myself believing in his kindness. In hindsight, I should have said, I need some time to think, but when I returned home, my mother was so happy about my marriage that I couldn't bring myself to delay the conversation. As a result, the marriage life planned by Michael and his mother began. Fortunately, the new high-rise condo was very close to my mother's house. If there were any problems, I could quickly visit my mother and she could come to my apartment. There was that advantage. If there were any problems, I could quickly visit my mother and she could come to my apartment. There was that advantage. However, I couldn't achieve the life I desired. As soon as we started living together, my mother-in-law declared, Catherine, you understand, right? From now on, you'll be taking care of my daily needs. Cleaning, laundry, and of course, preparing meals perfectly. I'm counting on you. I expected to be entrusted with everything, but my mother-in-law began to behave abnormally, monitoring my every move. I was forbidden to contact my mother, and she was not allowed to visit our house. The most shocking thing was that I had to bear all the household expenses. Do you realize who you have to thank for living in this luxurious apartment? From now on, never forget your gratitude to us. What? What did you just say? My mother-in-law seemed to have no recognition of the fact that I was supporting the household, believing that her son was the provider. You might be satisfied with the small amount of money you earn on your computer, but for us, that's worthless. What good is that petty cash? I was shocked by her harsh words. Realizing she didn't understand the actual financial situation, I thought about showing her the household accounts, but decided to talk to my husband first. Why doesn't your mother know that I'm supporting the household? She criticizes me every day, saying I'm living off her, and she seems to underestimate my earnings. What's going on? Ahaha, are you bothered by that? It doesn't matter what Mom thinks. Actually, the credit for getting this condo is partly mine, so it's natural for her to think that way. My husband said this with full confidence. Since getting married, he hasn't contributed financially at all. I've been paying for all the furniture and appliances. Despite this, he just laughed it off, offered no help to me in distress, and changed the subject. This was unbelievable coming from the kind person he used to be. Because of this, my trust in my husband wavered, and my resentment towards my mother-in-law grew day by day. One day, he came home excited about purchasing a new luxury car on loan. I bought a luxury car suitable for this condo. It's on loan, but it's better than a compact car, right? Cool, isn't it? Since moving to the condo, my husband's lifestyle completely changed. He never seemed materialistic before, but he started buying tailor-made suits, luxury shoes, expensive watches and wallets, and now a new car, all without consulting me. Don't you think this is a bit too much? Are you sure about the payments? I can't take on any more expenses. Since we moved, not a single penny. Just as I was about to finish my sentence. Shut up. What are you thinking? Who do you think you are? Remember who you have to thank for getting married. If I hadn't approached you, you'd still be at your mom's house doing remote work. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe he would say such a thing. I couldn't take it anymore and objected to his words. Stop joking. Who do you think should be grateful? Making high-cost purchases without any consultation is insane. Enough is enough. What? Don't talk back to me. Don't mess with me. The situation was on the verge of turning into a physical altercation. At that moment, my mother-in-law, noticing our fight, appeared. What's this, Catherine? Such a hoardy attitude. I've been listening and I've had enough. Spending so lavishly using my son's money. Just get out. You're a nuisance. My mother-in-law didn't listen to me at all, blaming me as if I was entirely at fault. I was just stunned by her sudden and nonsensical accusations. What? Mother-in-law? What are you talking about? You think I don't know? I've heard everything from Michael. I know all about you squandering his money and even getting into debt. We don't need an economic parasite. Just leave. I had planned to endure my mother-in-law's harassment to continue my married life, but my husband's betrayal was beyond my imagination. In reality, I wasn't living lavishly or in debt. The ones wasting money were these two. Ungrateful is the word for them. My husband, affirming his mother's words, said with a laugh, "What will you do, huh? Apologize or leave? If you leave, I won't stop you, but remember, it means divorce." Understood. I'll leave. I don't need the furniture and appliances I paid for. I'll leave them here. I wanted to throw their words back in their faces. After all, thanks to me, they were living in a 4-rooms condo. Yes. I'll file for divorce online now. Can you sign it quickly? I'll take the responsibility to submit it to the office. Saying that, I started searching online. My mother-in-law, watching me, seemed delighted, happy about me leaving the high-rise condo. Whether it was a lack of imagination or understanding about how life would unfold after this, perhaps she has a low IQ. But I wasn't interested in their future. I took the completed divorce papers, quickly packed my things, and arranged to leave the house. My mother-in-law continued her sarcastic remarks until the end. Beside her, my husband was rejoicing while wearing a similar expression. I'll submit the divorce papers. There will be no alimony or division of property. Here's the document. Just sign here. Yeah, I'll sign it. I was worried you might claim this apartment. Turns out, I was worrying for nothing. As I quietly left, thinking I had no interest in this apartment, I emptied all my bank accounts. I might be criticized, but I was confident to face any condemnation. After all, every penny in those accounts was earned by my hard work over the years. Returning to my mother's house, she greeted me with a surprised expression. I've been worried. I called several times but couldn't get through. I even went to your condo, but they wouldn't let me in. Are you okay? What? A call? What do you mean? Surprised by my mother's words, I carefully checked my phone and found that her number was set to reject incoming calls. I couldn't believe it. To think they went that far to prevent me from contacting my mother. I explained everything that had happened since I moved out to my mother without hiding any details. Isn't that just too terrible? Unbelievable. Even my usually gentle mother showed anger at this situation. But without me, they can't continue living in that high-rise condo. It's fine to just leave them be. The next day, I went to the office, submitted the divorce papers, and the divorce was finalized without any issues. What a short-lived marriage it was. Returning to my mother's house stabilized my mind, and I was able to concentrate on my work again, securing a stable income. At the end of the month, as expected, I received a call on my phone. Of course, it was from that foolish pair. "Hello, Catherine. It's me, Michael. I'm in a bit of a bind and need your help." "What?" "I'm busy right now. I don't have time to deal with your issues." Hearing my ex-husband's voice, I immediately knew it was about money. They were probably struggling with various expenses. "We're struggling with the condo's mortgage and utility bills. I had to sell the new car and pawn my branded watch, but it's still not enough. So, please help me out. I'm begging you." As expected, they were behind on the condo's payments and couldn't even afford the utility bills. From what I heard, their situation seemed quite dire. "Oh, that's unfortunate. If we were still married, I might have felt obligated to help, but we're divorced now. I'm not generous enough to lend money to a stranger. Sorry to hear that." "I know, but you're the only one I can turn to now. Please, help me out." His mother was probably there too, yelling in the background. "Turn to someone? Isn't she right behind you? You can ask your dear mother for help." As I said this, my mother-in-law, unable to hold back, took the phone. "What's with you, Catherine? Being so cold? We're your former family in trouble. Can't you help? Our accounts are all zero. You gain nothing by holding a grudge against us. You're the lowest." "What are you talking about? That was my money. You, who kicked me out of the house, have no right to talk about helping family members. If you keep this up, I'll bill you for all the living expenses, okay?" Originally intending to stay calm, I got irritated and ended up threatening to charge them for all the living expenses I had paid for them. Surprisingly, my words hit them hard. "Wait, please, don't do that. We're just in financial trouble and seeking help. Yeah, please don't burden us any further. We promise not to bother you again, Catherine. Is that okay?" They excused themselves and made absurd claims. I decided to put an end to this hassle. "I'll let it go this time, but if you contact me again, I'll bill you for all the past living expenses. Okay?" "Understood. Sorry. We won't bother you anymore. We won't contact you either, okay?" Although I didn't quite understand, I managed to clearly cut ties without being persistently bothered. I thought they would chase me more stubbornly, but they were really in financial trouble. After that, I blocked their numbers. I was relieved that they wouldn't contact me again, but one day, my mother told me she saw them packing and leaving the high-rise condo. They looked miserable, not at all like residents of a high-rise condo. Apparently, they couldn't afford to keep living there due to the mortgage and utility bills. It seems they're still struggling with debt repayment, as the house has not yet been sold. A true case of getting their just desserts. My ex-husband worked at a jewelry shop, but in reality, he wasn't earning much. He finally realized that obtaining the high-rise condo and living our life there was all thanks to me. But it's too late for him to realize that now. I want to start afresh, focusing on spending peaceful times with my mother. I'm currently living comfortably in my childhood home, but I'm planning to find a new house to live in with my mother. As part of honoring my mother, I'm considering moving into a barrier-free luxury home. I'll take my time to find a place that we both like. Catherine, you've always been good at your job. Keep up the good work. I'm here to support you. Encouraged by my mother's warm words, I'm determined to work hard for her sake from now on.